Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. When did you start being interested in real estate investing? And is it ever too soon to start learning about real estate? Today, you'll meet two extraordinary young men who have accumulated a lot of property before their 16th birthdays. Plus a very special guest today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. If you've been listening to the Real Estate Guys for a while, then you've heard about the legendary Investor Summit. Simply put, it's the highest level event we do, and the content, faculty, and attendees are amazing. If you're serious about taking your real estate investing to the next level, then join us next summer. You'll spend an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals, and you'll have a blast. It all begins June 6, 2023 in Ambergris Caye, Belize. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click on the tab that says Summit to learn more and reserve your spot. We'll spend a sun-drenched week learning and networking with more than 25 class sessions and breakouts, plus small format roundtable discussions, great dinner conversations, and a ton of fun. It's nearly 70% full already, but there's room for you if you go to realestateguysradio.com and click Summit and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys and an all-star faculty on the 21st Annual Investors Summit on Sand. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. With me, as usual, our co-host and financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
You know, we both are dads and certainly have watched our kids go through the stage of not having any interest in what dad and mom are doing, all the way up to actually investing in real estate. And Russ, you've got a couple of kids that actually work in the business. And today what we're going to talk about is how early can you get started in real estate investing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if any parent understands the power of time, especially when it comes to investing in real estate, then the earlier, the better. I have always been amazed at young people and their ability to grasp difficult concept, to achieve difficult things. You look at kids that learn how to do these fancy dance moves or participate in plays, or my oldest daughter was a national champion acrobat, and these coaches got stuff out of her I would have never believed you could get a little girl to be able to do. And you see these young athletes on TV or these prodigy musicians, the list goes on and on. So when it comes to something as kind of mundane as real estate investing, I think the basic math, it's not that complicated. Most young people can understand it and they get excited about money. I was always interested in money when I was a kid. My kids were always interested in money. They're interested in having more money and spending money, but when you give them the opportunity to make money, they like it. A lot of board games are about making money and playing, whether it's Monopoly and I know these are old classic games, but they're still popular. We used to play Life and Careers and these different board games when I was a kid. If you understand that young people are very interested in their future, they're very interested in being successful. They don't always have the best judgment. That's part of being young. But real estate is something very visible, very physical, very tangible. They can relate to it. They understand the model. Either mom and dad own a home or rent. They can see buildings, and whether it's an apartment building or a house or a shopping center, a self-storage unit, they can see it. And with just a little bit of explanation, when they understand the money behind it and the fact that you can get in on that gravy train, I think kids are going to be really interested in it.
Lots of kids start to get exposed to different ideas and different hobbies and different businesses through their folks, right? If you're the kind of person that gets up and goes to a W-2 job, then maybe your kids are interested in following that same path. If you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you're interested in the business, sometimes not. I followed in my dad's footsteps. My sister had no interest whatsoever. So every kid's different, but I think at the very least, parents can agree that if we can lead them along to have that interest or be able to engage, don't shove it down their throats, but if they show that interest you talk about, Russ, in money, rather than go, yeah, well, money, that's for later on, start to just teach them some basic principles. It's extraordinary what can happen. The Real Estate Guys for many years have had our young adult program as part of our Investors Summit, and we're just now expanding that to some of our other events and things because we see the value in getting folks involved from an early age. But how early is too early? Well, recently we were at the New Orleans Investment Conference, and a good friend of ours, best-selling author Mark Victor Hansen, had reached out and said, hey, you guys got to interview this young kid I'm doing a book with. He's only 15 and he owns real estate. When we come back, you're going to meet him and his brother today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Are you achieving everything you want in life? What if there was a time-tested way for you to get everything you've ever dreamed of? The most successful people in life set goals and keep themselves accountable. But how? The good news is that it's not rocket science. You too can learn the skills and unleash the motivation that will create success in your life. And now is the time. Hi, this is Robert Helms, and I'd like to personally invite you to attend Create Your Future, the 2023 Goals Retreat, January 6th through 8th in beautiful Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. This unique weekend event has been called phenomenal, inspirational, and life-changing by the thousands of people that have attended. Hear from some of them and find out more at realestateguysradio.com under events or call 888-489-7723, extension 18. Get your life back on track, physically, spiritually, and financially. Attend the 2023 Goals Retreat on the first weekend of the new year. Click events at realestateguysradio.com to register. This is no dress rehearsal. Live the life you were meant to. Visit realestateguysradio.com or call 888-489-7723, extension 18 today.
Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki. I'm the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you're serious about learning how to invest in real estate, listen to the Real Estate Guys. They really know what they're talking about.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. When is it too soon to buy real estate? I don't think it ever is. We're about to meet an astonishing young man who you're going to dig. He's got an awesome story. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program, Mr. Devon Wohlwend. Devon, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to meet you. Our mutual friend, Mark Victor Hansen, called me and said, you must meet this young man, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit. Devon, how old are you?
I'm 15 years old.
Wow. And at 15 years old, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, you've been investing more than half your life. Tell us what happened.
Well, it actually started more when I was 5 years old. I went up to my dad and told him, I'd like to start investing. What can I invest in?
Yeah.
And he told me to invest in what I knew, which at the time was Legos, the little plastic building blocks.
Yeah.
I learned a bunch of good lessons from that, and then a couple years later, I had learned a whole lot more. I went to a couple of different real estate conferences, weekly real estate meetings, and had done some minor investing in like precious metals type thing.
Okay.
And I decided I was finally ready to invest in some real estate.
And at the time you decided to invest in real estate, you're now 7 years old.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you start investing in real estate when you're 7?
I started by actually working at like a part-time job for my parents' real estate brokerage.
Okay.
That was to earn the down payment on my first house.
Yep.
I didn't make much money, but the little I earned definitely helped. Then I found a deal that would get me a lot of equity in the property once I bought it.
Okay.
What I actually found was, at the time, an $80,000 house that was for sale for $50,000. This meant that the lender on the property, because I couldn't get a bank loan, the lender would be more secure. I'm not totally sure if I can say secure without the SEC gods descending upon me, but it was more secure for the lender.
Yep.
Which is why someone would lend me the money to buy that house minus a small down payment.
So because the value was higher than what you paid, the lender felt like they were safe, they were protected. So that makes a lot of sense.
So even if I didn't pay and they had to foreclose, then they would still end up making plenty of money from the deal.
Yep. And lenders, that's what they do. They make money two ways, right? They make money if you pay your mortgage like you're supposed to, and if not, well, they want to make sure there's enough protective equity. So that's a great part of the story. You found an undervalued property. How many properties did you have to look at before you found the right one?
I'm not sure offhand, but there was definitely a couple different properties, I think.
Yep. So now take us through buying the first property. Obviously, your parents are in the business. That helps a little bit. But what went through your mind? Take us through that whole process.
I looked at it a lot like the board game Cash Flow, which I had played for years,
Yeah.
pretty much since I could do basic math. I was just buying a house like in the game, putting X amount down, and then I'd get X amount every month. And so I just did it. My dad helped. He's the main person that buys real estate in my family. He does a lot of finding deals, talking to people, and so
Yeah.
he helped teach me the basic this is how you program stuff in the computer, this is how you write this paperwork.
Awesome. So now let's fast forward to today, and then we'll come back and fill in the gaps. How many properties do you have now?
I currently own 46 units.
46 units. Okay, so that's a big jump. A lot of folks who invest in real estate start with a rental house, maybe they get a second one and so forth. And now just in a few short years, you've built up to 46 units. Take us through that journey, Devon.
Well, continuing on from my first deal, sure, it had a lot of equity and it would be paid off in 9 years.
Okay.
Which would be paid off when I'm 16 so I can buy a car. That was my dad's idea. But it didn't make much money every month. And it was very negative if it wasn't rented.
Yeah.
So I decided to buy a mobile home, which I got for very cheap, so it would cash flow a lot more. After I bought that, I quickly moved on to a duplex, started buying some more property that way, and then started getting into some more creative deals. I'm not sure how much your listeners do super creatively, but I bought a couple properties subject to.
Okay.
Meaning I started paying on the previous owner's mortgage and got the house.
Yeah. So in different parts of the world, we have listeners in 190 plus countries, you can do subject to loans where the existing loan stays in place and you come alongside. That's a great creative tool. And I'm guessing your dad probably helped teach you about that. That's a great way to go. And it is one of the questions people have as well, if I don't have a lot of money or a lot of credit, this can be a great tool. So talk about the creativity, because this is where I think people's brains stop them from moving ahead. Most 7-year-olds are going to say, well, I can't buy real estate till I'm 18. But you're proof that that's not true. So take us through the creative side of putting these deals together.
Really, the main thing about creativity is you have to always be creative. If you limit yourself in what you can do to buy a deal, then you're going to limit what deals you can buy. So one of my subject to deals specifically, I was at my weekly breakfast meeting I used to go to. But this time there was a person looking to sell a rental property he owned for $7,000, more than I thought the property was worth. So of course I went up to him and asked, why do you want to sell it for this much? He simply replied with, well, that's the current mortgage balance.
Ah.
And I figured, okay, how do we do this? It's a house, it'll probably cash flow, how do I buy this? And so he had been investing for a while. He understood a lot of this, so probably with the help of my dad, came up with the idea for subject to. I talked to him about it, and he said, yeah, sure, we can do that. The last problem was just the $7,000 more than the property was worth.
Right.
The way I solved that was by asking him to bring that much to closing, not to pay off that much for the loan, but simply to basically give that to me.
Yep.
So that I could fix up that property or other properties I owned.
That's an excellent strategy. He wanted to be out of the deal. That's
Yep.
what we call a don't wanter, right? And you came along. Hard to sell a property that is what we would call underwater, but creativity solved the day, and that's actually a deal you walked away with some cash.
You're right. Creativity is one of the biggest things that's let me do what I've done. Being creative is incredibly important.
Well, especially when you're not fitting the mold. And in real estate, we, as investors, solve problems. we don't think of it that way. We're trying to build wealth. We're trying to build up cash flow. But at the end of the day, real estate's about solving a problem. In this case, the seller had a problem. You came up with a great way to solve it. Probably something he hadn't thought of, which is also why creativity benefits everybody. So, Devon, take us through another deal that can give us an example of the kind of stuff that you like to do.
Well, let's go with my most creative deal.
Okay.
It was actually my dad and mentor had partnered with another guy to buy a 60 unit.
Okay.
The partner one day thought, well, I like the tax benefits of this, and that's great, but the building's not going to make really much money until well after I can enjoy that. And so he wanted to keep the tax benefits of the building, but not have to put any money in, not have any of the risk or any of the other problems.
Okay.
I heard about this and came up with the idea of, well, why can't I take the property because I'm young? I can wait.
Yeah.
He can keep the tax benefits because he has a lot of income now. I don't. I'm, 15. I don't have
you don't
a
need
major
the tax
job.
break. Yeah.
So we eventually worked it out where he kept the tax benefits from the building, and I got the rest of the building. I got 20% of a 60 unit for $20.
Wow.
That was just so that we could legally say I paid him to get this.
And he got the benefit that he wanted.
You're right.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. All right, well, we've got a lot more to talk about when we come back. Devon today travels around and is learning. In fact, we met here at the New Orleans Investment Conference where you're learning about gold and silver and oil and gas. And when we come back, we're also going to talk about his book. He's shared his stories in a brand new book we're going to tell you about. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Real Estate Guys listeners, are you tired of losing real estate deals due to financing issues? Have you had enough of waiting on banks, lenders, and investor groups to fund new projects? What if there were a way to eliminate all the hassle and invest in real estate on your own terms? I'm here to tell you there is. Patrick Donahoe here from Paradigm Life. I'm an Investopedia Top 100 Most Influential Financial Advisor, and I recently wrote a best-selling book about the financial strategy that changed my entire investment model, and the one that could change yours. To get a copy of my book for free and learn how you can maximize your real estate portfolio by acting as your own bank, send an email to mybank@realestateguysradio.com. Don't make another real estate deal without reading my book first. Email mybank@realestateguysradio.com now to get your copy for free.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Hi, this is Steve Forbes. You're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Have fun. You'll learn something.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, if you lack clarity in your life, if you know you could do more, be more, and have more with the right set of skills, disciplines, and desires, then get registered for the 2023 Goals Retreat, an amazing weekend of introspection, reflection, and charting your course for the future. You can get all the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com under events. Just look for Create Your Future. We're talking today about getting started in real estate at a young age. Before we get back to our interviews, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. Your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. When you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. That's trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Give us your name, the answer to the question, and your physical mailing address. The first person that gets it right gets this awesome book by Devon Wohlwend called If I Can Do It, So Can You, and he'll sign it to you if you're the first to get the right answer. Last time around, it was part 2 of Halloween Horror Stories. We asked this: name the country with the highest murder rate per capita. That's a gruesome one. Well, the answer is El Salvador, followed by Jamaica and Venezuela. Yet for 2022, the city with the highest murder rate is Tijuana, Mexico. The highest ranked city in the U.S. is St. Louis, Missouri, which is 14th on the global list. Moving on to something much more positive, here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Devon and Ethan Wohlwend hail from the great state of Ohio. Here's what we want to know. Name the state bird of Ohio. Yeah, every state has its bird. What's the state bird of Ohio? If you know or just want to guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. The first person that gets it right gets an autographed copy of If I Can Do It, So Can You. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're with the author of this awesome book, If I Can Do It, So Can You, Devon Wohlwend. And Devon, what made you decide to share your story in a book?
I always knew that I wanted to make the world a better place. My dad tells me every night before I go to sleep, dream about making the world a better place. And so when I was in the front row of the audience at a real estate conference, and there's a speaker up there offering his book publishing course, I decided that's how I wanted to do it. To write a book and use that to share my story to the world, to inspire people, to get people to be creative and take action. And so I spent the next year after that writing this book.
It's a crazy thing to write a book, isn't it? And you've got to get all your ideas onto paper, and it's astonishing to see you do that at 15. When did you start writing the book?
I started writing the book when I was 10. Got published when I was 11. I'm homeschooled, so that was most of my writing, spelling, grammar, etc. for that year. It taught me a lot about, well, the writing and stuff, but also organizing ideas, telling a good story, teaching. Taught me a lot about teaching, and then afterwards, it helped me get on a lot of different stages and podcasts, especially recently, so I can share my story with people that way and help inspire them there.
Well, love that. You know, so many investors, they just invest in their own account and they do what they do and they get on with their lives. But our favorite folks are the ones that will stop and share their ideas. You've got a lot of life ahead of you. Talk about what your plans are for real estate as you continue to get older.
I plan to continue growing and learning. I'm not totally sure what the future will hold. My life seems to be changing every 5 minutes. But I'm sure I'll find even more creative ways to do deals and, well, continue growing.
So, Devon, there's probably folks listening right now who have kids that are 7 or 10 or 15. What would you say to those parents whose kids maybe aren't even showing interest necessarily, but now you've been through this process and you know and have proven it's possible? What would you say to folks who may have kids your age?
One big thing is to show them that this can be fun. A big thing, especially my parents talk about, is that if you're just showing them instead of having fun on the weekends, we have to go work on this property, that's not what they're going to want. Showing them what real estate can get you, like being able to travel more, having more freedom, that will make them more want to get into this business. Because if they don't want to get into this business, they're not going to stay.
Love that. Now you're here at the New Orleans Investment Conference with your family, and I met your brother. Has he shown any interest in investing?
Yes, he certainly has. He currently owns, I think, 38 rental units.
Oh, he does? And how old's your brother, Ethan?
He's 12 at the moment.
Ah, okay. So he's got his eyes on you, and he's trying to pass you up, I bet.
He passed me up by, I think, 1 unit right after I published my first book.
Wow.
But I've since passed him back up.
Well, speaking of Ethan, welcome to the program.
Hi.
Now, your brother shared a lot right here about what he's been doing. Take it from there. Tell us about how you got interested. You see your older brother doing some of this stuff. When did you start to be interested in investing?
I started when I was 7. Everyone else in my family was doing it, so I figured I should probably take after my family. I had heard from my parents that we could go wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted, because of real estate, and I heard that's a lot better than what some other people have to do. So I figured I might as well give it a shot.
Excellent thinking, and so far so good. I'm sure a lot of our listeners wish they had started at 7 years old. How old are you today?
12.
And remind me how many doors you have?
38.
38. Okay, so that's pretty extraordinary. So tell me this. What do you think the future's going to look like for you and your investing?
I'm hoping to write a lot more books and go out teaching, hoping to teach a lot and continue growing my real estate business and maybe get into other types of investing, maybe looking at gold mines or oil wells.
Excellent. When it comes to the things that you've invested in, what are some of the big lessons that you've learned?
One of the mistakes I made in real estate was for one of the houses, I bought it and I didn't check in on my contractors as much as I was supposed to. And it went for almost an entire year without anyone in it, which really hurt. After that, I went there every week checking what got done, what needed done, and I started to check up on contractors and realize how really important that was.
Well, that's awesome. I'll tell you what, it's not when we make a mistake that hurts us in the long run, it's when we don't correct it. So the fact that you took action, now you're a better investor because of it.
I figured it out. I solved the problem and I learned from it.
All right. Well, hey, this has been awesome getting to know you a little bit. You know, not everything goes well in real estate, and I'm sure there's been some situations that are tough, and it's great to be focused on the future, and I love the idea of making it fun. Devon, talk about staying motivated when things maybe don't go so well.
Wow, that's an interesting question. I've wanted this to continue growing. I wanted my business to continue going, partially because I never want to have a real job, or at least I don't want to have a job.
Yep.
And so I focused on that. I focused on having the freedom of this, and so even when times are rough, even when things aren't going well, when you have a major problem and you're in my duplex, I talk about in my first book, knowing that I want to or I have to continue going to continuously push me forward, push me to keep going. When you get too comfortable or bored, that you stop.
Well, I get the impression you're probably not going to stop. It's been an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing today. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you very much for having me on.
There's Devon. When we come back, we'll tell you how you can get his awesome book and find out about what he's doing. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Hi there, this is Danielle DiMartino Booth, author of Fed Up, an insider's take on why the Federal Reserve is bad for America, and you're listening to the Real Estate Guys.
As I speak, inflation is robbing you at a rate north of 10%. Last year, the number one zip code that Mid-South homebuyers offered income property to Real Estate Guys listeners in appreciated by 21%. To harness that spread and protect and grow your wealth in the current economic storm, you need the 2 decades of experience in renovation and management that Mid-South homebuyers brings to their investors. Every home Mid-South offers you will have brand new components, a new 30-year roof, and a high-quality renter, all in a price range under $150,000. Their empathetic property managers will use your ROI as their North Star, while the lack of repairs on their totally renovated properties contributes to their almost 4-year average renter stay and 99% occupancy rate. Learn about their lifetime occupancy guarantee and total 1-year maintenance guarantee by emailing midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. The EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill U-bit, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy, and I'm on with the Real Estate Guys, and I'm very excited to be a guest and a speaker at the Investor Summit on the Sand in Belize coming up. If you haven't signed up, be sure to do so.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, now in our 26th year of broadcast. When is it too early to start investing in real estate? Well, as you learned today, you can get started just as soon as you're willing, able, and have the fire, as both of the young men we've heard from today do. Extraordinary stories, and just love to see their passion and how they've embraced real estate at such a young age. Right now, I'd like to introduce you to the man who introduced me to these two gentlemen. Let's welcome the amazing Mark Victor Hansen. How are you, brother?
More than wonderful. Thank you. And what a great accolade. But let me just go back a step. My wife and I are down in Houston talking at a real estate meeting called Limitless with 700 people. And at the end of the meeting, this little young guy comes up to me shaking and trembling. And I'm going, "What are you trembling about?" And he says, "You're a world's best-selling author and you intimidate me." Me? I couldn't intimidate anybody, but especially somebody, you could see that he was an intellectual and smart even at his young age. You could just, it just radiated intelligence like and everybody that's watched this knows. And I said, "What is it? Tell me your story, kid." And he said, and if I give any numbers wrong, you correct it because you just talked to him. But he said, at 8 years old, I passed the real estate test in Ohio. And at the time he was 14 years old. He's now eclipsed $1 million at 15. But at that time, he was $843,000. And I thought, holy cow. In my heart of hearts and my soul of souls, because I own a lot of real estate, as you know, in 4 states, I wished, I prayed, I blessed. Why didn't I know this exists? That's why this show is so important. Not only because Robert and I are great friends for 20, 30 years, a long time. I don't know how, you have to tell me how long we've known each other, but decades for sure.
For sure.
Back to Jim Rohn and all that. Then I said to the kid, we got to do a book. And I know he got a little book out, but that isn't what we could do because we need to inspire everyone. And then, I talked to him. He says, "I'm just finishing my Eagle Scout." And I said, "Whoa, I want every kid to be an Eagle that's qualified and will be competent because that's a great, everybody in Horatio Algier, which I'm a member of, is an Eagle Scout, curious enough, that's men." And then number 2 is he said, "I'm just finishing my martial arts and I'm an Aikido guy." I said, wow. I said, if I were reading your introduction, I own $1 million worth of real estate. I'm 15 years old. I'm a black belt. I'm a straight A student. I'm homeschooled. I said, that is a great credential. And then his little brother came up, Ethan, who you've just interviewed, pulled up my wife's blouse and said, "I'm 12 years old and I'm rich too." And she looks at him, smiles and says, well, Crystal exceedingly well. So we've been at parties together with Tommy Hopkins in recent days. And some people know that he's one of the best sales trainers in the world. But said, "Well, what did you do?" He says, "Well, I own $250,000 of real estate." And he goes through his litany of great. And I go, "Oh my God, you guys have got to do books and you've got to get the young world to understand that they can make money more than their parents." I mean, when I started my little rock group, as you know, I made more in one night than my dad did in a year. I was making $5,000 a night. And it just, whoa. And I was only, I was 16, 17, and 18 before I went to college. So that could afford me to pay to college because my parents didn't have any money. So I am so thankful, so blessed of our friendship, but I'm blessed that you're blessing people by saying, "Hey, wait a second, take off the blinders. There's a new opportunity in town." And the kind of books my publishing company does nobody's going to publish a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old. And what I want to do is have impact books that go, whoo, and you get aha illuminations and they go, yikes. If Mark's telling the truth and these kids are telling the truth, and they are, I mean, you interviewed them, I'd love your feedback. What was your response when you met these two kids that are so loomingly bright?
Well, as you say, so impressive in the fact that they've been with their parents in the real estate world for a long time and both got the bug, just kind of picked it up. And I know that Devon wrote his first book, his story about how he put together the deals. But then he met you, and the second book, The Garage, is fascinating, and it's a fiction book, but has a lot of great lessons in it. And as a guy that sold 500 million books, and that number increases every single day, you understand how important it is that others can relate to the story. So talk about, Mark, if you would, how you took Devon from where he was to publishing and putting out this book, The Garage.
Well, thank you. Our company brand is called MarkVictorHansenLibrary.com. And we created it for a whole ton of reasons. First of all, we went through a pandemic, and the pandemic, no one missed out on this one. We all got sucked into it and shut down by it. And what happened is that the bad news for my industry, which I love, cherish. I've been writing books 47 years, 318 books. 59 times #1 New York Times bestseller, but I'm #1 in a lot of countries where you never even hear it. Like #1 in Greece, you don't put #1 in Greece on the cover of a book. But the bookstores have gone from 19,000 in these 2 years to 400. Well, that's a heartbreaker because these people have been great to me. They've made me rich. We've hugged them, we've kissed them, we've loved them, we signed books, we've done book signings, and I love librarians. So I said, well, what is it I could do to be different to make sure that everybody that deserves to get published and deserves to get heard gets heard? So we wrote our brand, because I say everybody ought to write their brand statement. Our brand statement is, we bring your story to life. We bring your story to life. Now, if we bring your story to life, does everyone have a story? And I'll let you answer that.
I think everyone has a story.
Yeah. And whether it's a good story or bad story, not everybody has the competence that I do and my team does to write.
Well, that's such a huge point. Most people who have a story have a hard time getting it out. And this is where you guys help.
Yeah. We are a ghostwriting company. And then we said, well, wait a second, because I'm a marketing guy, right? I've only got 4 talents, but my dad would say, God, Mark, don't give him a hammer. He doesn't know when end to hold. He's useless. And I am. My unique ability is talking and persuading and inspiring, hopefully, as a speaker. And you've certainly been in a lot of those talks with Jim Rohn and I and Kyle Wilson and the team. Number 2 is, most people would say I'm a great writer. Now, the people that don't like because they think I'm hogging the list. No, I just write books if people want to read. That just like we just saw Mr. Barry Manilow, who sings songs that people want to sing, right? I write books that people want to read, but I want to help other people. So we created a ghost company to do exactly that. And then we're learning how to market books in brand new ways, because one of the companies we're dealing with now has the way to transcribe every book that's oral into every language, 36 languages, that quick, in your voice and in your tone. And I have the exclusive to do that starting in January coming up here. So some people are going to be listening to that and say, oh, I already know that. You can do it in Swahili and Japanese and Spanish. Well, we are trying to do the coolest, most impactful things, because phase 2 is that, I thought I was going to be a Platonic scholar in college. And then I got assuaged to get with Dr. Buckminster, the smartest guy on the planet, Einstein's best student, 2,000 inventions, all that. And just wowed my brain and made me wake up to universe and how do you serve the most people and do the most good. But Plato said, whoever controls the story controls the future. You guys have the real estate guys do a real estate future fortune, because everyone needs a hard asset. Everyone should own some piece of America, piece of the world, piece of the farmland, piece of the future. But the point is, don't you think everybody should bring their book to light and life? Yes?
Well, absolutely. And that's been the challenge for folks, because they got busy lives and they got stuff going on. And then they don't either know the first thing about writing, and they certainly don't know how to market a book. And so you see a lot of folks that die with their book inside of them. And I know you guys are working hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right. And then what we discovered is that if you look at it, a nonfiction book, do principle A, B, C, or 1, 2, and 3 is great, right? 7 Habits by my friend, Dr. Steve Covey, all that stuff. And I wrote those books. So, I wrote all those books, like 1 Minute Millionaire with our friend, Bob Allen, and We Make You a Millionaire in 90 Days, which is a wonderful thing. And you interviewed us about that before. But the point is, what we discovered now is that people want to read fiction that teaches truth and wisdom and insight and love and value and honor and nobility. And I thought, wow, if that's what they want, I can do it. And we'll finish out 100 books before the end of the year. I mean, people in contract and agreement with us, because we charge $29,900 to write it, but then we help them to get to Amazon #1. We post it. We make sure it's available at every bookstore. We print it. We get everything that you'd want done. And we do it in 3 or 4 interviews. We hear you. We say, this is what we think the title should be. Like I talked to somebody this morning, and for whatever reason, God gave me this ability. I have 3 Guinness Book of Records, as you know, more times #1 than anyone, all that stuff. But one of the things I've got is I'm a title champion. And we just came up with kick butt titles, which obviously I can't use any here because it's not published yet. Once it's published and we can do a series, then suddenly you can trademark it. You got to have 3 books to trademark. I mean, there's a lot of little stuff. And I did write a book called You Have a Book in You, and I want everyone to write their book with it. And there are 4 choices in answer to your question. The first question, which I didn't answer quite right. You can do nothing, which is what most people watching are doing. They're going, yeah, it's easy. He's Mark Victor Hansen, or he's Robert Elms, right? Number 2 is you can self-publish, which is noble and important. I mean, even if you're going to do your autobiography, that's like a great thing. Number 3, you can go to a major house if they'll let you in, but most of them, shut us off and cut us off. 4th way is an equity publisher, and there's a couple of them that are trying to do it. But where we are, because I've been in the book business and I've been with 8 major houses. I've been with Simon & Schuster. I've been with William Morris. I've been with Hay House. I'm with Random House, gave me $1 million 3 times for a book. Getting into those houses, you got to have one of 2 things. You got to have a major agent that's got real biceps and triceps in him and her that could go and push through. Or number 2, you got to have an automatic list like Joe Rogan or somebody like that, or Grant Cardone, that is so big and so powerful that you can do it. And they still won't market. So the point is, we said, hey, look, we'll do this publishing house, and then we're going to pay the highest royalty on the planet. In other words, yes, you pay $29,900 to work with the Mark Victor Hansen Library if you qualify, and we qualify for you and you qualify for us. That seems fair. And you have a story to tell that's going to be impactful and makes a positive difference that is contributive to the reader. Then what we're saying is, hey, wait a second. Most books today, curiously enough, are sold electronically. 70% of books are sold to go into a Kindle, 90%, I predict, in the next 2 years are going to go into your cell phone. Yeah. Right? And they're going to go in one bite at a time. And I can tell you why that is. But the fact of the matter is, electronic books, you get 50% and I get 50%. We're a 50-50 contract, whereas most publishers are 15%. I mean, when I did health communications with Jack and we did our book, we got $1.20 a book. We were getting 10%, and he got 60 cents and I got 60 cents. We still made millions, right? 6 million a year. But so it was great. And you can see that the publisher became a billionaire. Well, I said, well, wait a second. The real creator here, the real person selling it, the real person paying for marketing is the author. So why not do a 50-50 deal? Now you say, well, how does that work if they sell a book like this? Well, let's say this book, let's just do easy numbers, $10 on Amazon or Books A Million or Hudson or Barnes & Noble. I don't care where. It's always the same. They get the first half, so they get the $5. Now, the hard cost of the book is let's say it's $2, so that leaves $3. So in this case, Devon gets $1.50 and Mark Victor Hansen Library gets $1.50. Nobody's more generous than we are. I defy you to find a contract with any other publisher that'll do that. And so, yeah, we got people pouring in right now and every one of them, God bless, is trying to make a difference that makes a quantum difference. Like Mitzi Perdue wants to end human trafficking. We're doing a book called Girls That Code that want to end coding and stop the cartels in fiction for doing bad stuff like crossing the border and all that, which is just sort of a mind blower. It won't be on until next year. We're doing the most. We got a woman that is a medical doctor that has got the way to change. If you are worried about the shot doing something wrong or the nanobot in you, she's got the way to get it out that's legal and FDA approved, and that book will be out next year. Just books that really make a difference. The world's we show Jeff Hoffman, the guy who created Priceline and kiosks at airports and all that. He and I are just together for a whole day, and we're doing his fiction book called Innovator. And what he teaches is that everyone has one solution to a problem that they could scale and make a vast profit. And what he did in the last year is say, hey, we started Priceline, and he wrote a letter to every hotel in the world, like I said to you, because you own a hotel in Belize, if do you have any hotel rooms that need to be filled at the last minute, we'll do it for you. And his little price line went from 1 billion to 90 billion in 1 year. Well, that's an impact book. Now you say, well, wait a second, I'm in hard real estate. If you got rentals, if you could figure out the right question, you can make a fortune, right? If you ask the right question I'm going to morph it to banks. The other day, I'm doing a talk on our book company here at the Village, which I'm a proud club member and take you to when you come, or anyone that comes in. It's a great club. But I'm doing a talk and it's packed, and the guy that's head of the fastest growing credit union in America that does bank loans on investor real estate. And I said, look, during the Depression, 6,000 banks went banko in one day. Now, why did that cause the collateral damage? Well, let's say that my father, who did go through the Depression and black marketed sugar out of the bakery to feed my older brothers, right? Because there was no way he wanted to feed my mom and them. And I said, well, okay, if the government's being stupid, which the government is being stupid sometimes, you got to decide how to stay alive. The point is, the first thing in biology is survive, then thrive, right? So the bottom line is, what the banks did is they shut down. And let's say you had $100,000 in the bank, you write a check, it bounces because the bank's closed. There's nobody working in the bank. Your real estate gets foreclosed. Now, here's a little dirty secret that I'm doing with this bank, right? Arizona Financial Credit Union. No credit unions went bankrupt. Did you know that?
No. Wow.
So what am I saying? I'm becoming their spokesperson. We're doing books with them probably. But the first one is, don't let the recession that's probable because of faceless bureaucrats or the Depression, if it happens, and I don't want that to happen, but if it happens, you want to be prophylactic, right? It's like you keep a spare tire on your car. You don't plan on having a flat tire, and I don't think I've had one in 20 or 30 years, but my Mercedes and our Beamer and all the cars we own all have spare tires. Doesn't that make sense?
Absolutely. Mark, there's so many great stories. There's so much of it. But I think the real hesitancy people have is finding the time and trying to articulate it. Not everyone's gifted with those skills. But in order for you to pull the information out, that's just a whole different process. You do it through a series of interviews. And let's face it, you and your team have been in this business a long, long time.
Yeah. And what we do is we want to co-create with you. We take what you say, we put the exact right title on it. The first people buy a cover, then they buy the title, then they buy the author if they know who the author is. And some of these people are going to be doing giant seminars. If you believe Grant Cardone, we're going to go have more seminars because more people are going to learn new information fast. Because look, 25% of us always make a profit in the good times and bad times. And in my case, I've made more money in bad times and good times. I went bankrupt during a recession of 73 and 4. So I understand that. Right. And it got me out of that and out of the wrong business into the right business. The point I'm making is there's going to be more money to be made, more opportunity, because now we're not selling like in the old days. We only had America to sell, which is 5% of the population. Today, because of all the stuff we've talked about already, and we got the 40,000 satellites up with Elon Musk and Starlink and all that stuff. For the first time, you can literally talk to 1 billion people, and we can change the language, we can change the print, we do it that quick. No one's ever had to do that. And I'm doing where these kids are millionaires. I'm going to soon do the first billionaire kid that's only 21 years old. And I've just done one, I have a YouTube channel, as you know, Mark's Minutes, and we did the 10 points of Mr. Beast. Well, Mr. Beast, 3 years he's been on YouTube, does his antics. His name is Jimmy Donaldson, and 10 things. But what he's done is he's done these great videos. Last year, he made $52 million. A kid. Him and one other guy.
Yeah.
And you go, holy cow, because when you and I grew up, you read Think and Grow Rich. You couldn't get rich until you're 40, number one. Number two, you had to have a mastermind alliance, which obviously Mr. Beast has with Chris. But the point is, and I've got with Crystal and I've got with you, and we're in a couple of different masterminds together and apart, of course. But the point is that we are in the first no limit time if you're awake, if you throw off the blinders. That's why Christ said, many have eyes and cannot see, many have ears and cannot hear. They need to listen to this podcast. Those of you that listen to podcasts, whoever you trust, like, respect, and admire, ask them to listen to it too. And because what happens is you listen to Devon and you listen to Ethan and you listen to Robert and me, all of a sudden you go, hey, wait a second. If Mark's telling the truth, yeah, I got a body, yeah, I got a brain, and school system loaded that with stuff, but I've actually got, more importantly, I got a mind, M-I-N-D, which can do two things, imagination, intuition. But bigger than that, I got a soul that's connected to the universe. And if universe is infinite, and Genesis 1:28 says, I'm made in the image of the infinite, then that means I'm infinite stuff. All I got to do is come up with one right idea, and I get rich, and then I'm going to study everything that Robert and his team teaches me, and I'm going to make a fortune in real estate. And you and I know there's a myriad of ways to do that. There's not just one. And that's why when we wrote 1 Minute Millionaire, we said, hey, look, there's a million ways to make a million. There's one right, perfect, exceptional way for you. I never want to make light bulbs, but I'm sure glad they exist.
So true. Well, hey, this has been awesome stuff, and so excited that folks like Devon can tell a story within him that teaches us all kinds of great things. If you'd like to find out more about what Devon is doing, about how you can write your own book with Mark's help, all I have to do is send an email to book@realestateguysradio.com, book@realestateguysradio.com. We'll rush you out all the information on how to get hooked up with Mark Victor Hansen, and how to maybe inspire your 7-year-old or 15-year-old to get interested in real estate or whatever way to become a millionaire. Mark, it is always a pleasure to hang out with you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I hope all of you make more money than you ever imagined that you could. And it's somewhere along the happy trails you and I and Robert meet, because we want to hear your story.
There's our good friend Mark Victor Hansen. And more when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from December 9th to 12th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 16 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful. The people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and contracts are in English. And at Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me December 9th to 12th in Ambergris Caye, Belize, as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market's interesting to you. But that ball's in your court. You'll receive their contact details, but they won't receive yours unless you give it to them. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on events, where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trips. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize December 9th to 12th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, this is Dennis Waitley, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you've ever wanted to do bigger deals using other people's money, or if you want to invest alongside awesome projects done by true professionals, come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication. It's our 2-day syndication workshop that happens in March in Dallas, Texas. You can get all the details by sending an email to syndication@realestateguysradio.com. Well, my goodness, always great to hear from Mark Victor Hansen. And how about Ethan and Devon?
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. In fact, these kids came to our famous New Orleans investment conference, Real Estate Guys Party, and they were the hit. They were holding court. We had grown men. In fact, Dave Collum, one of the panelists, a professor at Cornell University, I believe, was just captivated by these two young boys, and they were so poised, so articulate. And they were able to conduct intellectual conversations with one of the most intellectual people you'll ever meet, and just fascinated him. So again, I go back to what I said at the top of the show. You know, if you put kids in an environment where they have something fun to do, they're challenged and well supported, you would be just absolutely amazed at what they can achieve.
And it's obvious that their parents have been super supportive of this. And in fact, the boys are homeschooled, they're in scouting, they go to events with their folks, like the New Orleans Investment Conference. That's where they met Mark at Kenny's Limitless event. And they're just surrounded by these ideas. But that's not enough. That's an excellent start. Both these young men have taken their own interest. And again, at their age, they may not have the long attention span. They may not have everything figured out that they hear, but they're there, they're in the room, they're learning. So hats off to their folks who've done an extraordinary job of preparing them. But for the boys to pick up the message and go has been great to see. They wandered around that exhibit hall and they asked thoughtful questions, and it was just really, really cool to see. And I think it just is a paradigm breaker for a lot of folks to say, wait a minute, these kids together have nearly $2 million in assets, and they're not even old enough to drive. That just kind of shatters this paradigm, right? Like, when is it too early? I don't know that it is.
No, not at all. I mean, again, you go back and just look at that real estate investing on its face is just not really that complicated. The best advantage you have is time and the ability to do fundamental math and be disciplined in your approach. Of course, their father and mom are successful real estate investors, and so you got to have that mentor. If you weren't fortunate enough to be raised into a real estate investing family, there's a lot of mentoring programs out there. You know, you can meet people who know how to do it. You can go work with someone who's doing it and learn it. I was on the outside looking in. My dad was a high-tech entrepreneur. Like a lot of folks, when he was in his mid-30s, he got a little frustrated with his corporate life. And just as a fallback strategy, my mom and my dad went out and got their real estate licenses. And so me, being a kid, seeing that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I ended up taking real estate classes while I was still in high school at the local junior college. And so my parents got me engaged in real estate, even though they weren't really active in real estate. Whereas with you and your dad was investing with his brother and brokering real estate, and you became very much a part of that. But whether your family's very active or not at all, there's plenty of people out there that are. You just put yourself in the right environment. And what I loved about these two boys is they were right up there with their parents, sitting in the front row. I remember standing on stage, looking down and seeing them right in the front row. There's 500-600 people in the room. They're right in the front row, paying attention, diligently taking notes. And we were talking about some pretty heady stuff. We bring a lot of Real Estate Guys listeners out to the New Orleans Investment Conference, and this is a pretty heady conference. We're talking about macroeconomics and what's going on in the government and policy and the Fed and all the things we talk about on the show. And then later on, you wonder, boy, were these kids able to track with what they were hearing? And yet you get into a conversation with them, and they really are. So again, I go back, you keep asking the question, when is too early? I think as long as they're interested, participating and grasping the concepts, it's never too early, because it can really be a lot of fun. And the beautiful thing, we homeschooled most of our children too, Robert, as you know. And one of the techniques we were taught was a thing called a unit study. And this was the idea that you take whatever the child is actually interested in. In my case, my oldest daughter was interested in horses. And then you teach them all kinds of different things around that one common theme. So I could teach geography by laying out the horse corral and how much pipe would you need to do the perimeter? How much hay would you need to cover the whole floor? We could do business, buy low, sell high. We could talk about cash flow, financing of assets. We could talk about the history of horses, their contribution, the biology of horses. The list went on and on and on. And so you may be able to find that kids actually are quite interested in real estate because, again, it's everywhere. It might be a skate park. It might be an amusement park. It might be a doctor's office, something that they've seen in can relate it to. And then you just begin to teach them about in the areas that they're interested in. Little by little, I think you'd be surprised at how engaged they can become.
So as we wrap up the show, just a couple of resources the real estate guys have put together and are putting together. The first is our Young Investor Program. It happens as part of our Investor Summit every year. We carve out 30 spots for young adults ages 18 to 25 who want to come and be full participants in the conference. But the cost to them is less than the actual cost to put the event on. We subsidize this along with our summiteers as a way to get young people engaged. So if you have someone in your life of that age that might be interested, all you have to do is go to the website at realestateguysradio.com. You'll see the button that says Summit, and as you go through all the material about the incredible Investor Summit, you'll see a section on our Young Investor Program. Now, even though it is below cost, it still comes at a cost. We actually, in addition to the Young Investor Program, have a scholarship portion. Many of our generous attendees from the past have made a contribution to the Godfather Scholarship Program, named after the godfather of real estate, my dad, Bob Helms. And if you can't afford to go, you can put together a video that explains where you are in your life, where you're going, what your plans are, and why you would be a good investment, and also come up with an amount that you can contribute, because no one goes for free, but you can get a bunch of it subsidized that way. In addition, in the new year, we'll be adding a Young Investor Program component to some other events. So that could be interesting to you. The second thing is Create Your Future, the 2023 Goals Retreat, which you've heard about here, happens the first weekend of January. We actually have a youth rate for that, and folks bring their 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 17-year-old kids, and it's amazing what happens in those couple of days. We've had lots of great stories from that regard, so that's another possibility for your young folks. And then finally, we're working on a pilot program to help kids that get to the age where they're interested, they're 15, 16, 17 years old, but they can't, quote unquote, legally buy a house yet. And there are a bunch of things that they can do to get their credit ready, to get their earnings ready, to apprentice and all that. So that program we're putting together right now. If you want details on any or all of that, and you've got a young person in your life somewhere, all you have to do is send an email to youth@realestateguysradio.com. That's youth@realestateguysradio.com. It's not already and bundled up, but we'll send you some of the resources so you can get started, because when would now be a good time to get your kids involved in real estate? A big thanks to Devon and Ethan, and to our friend Mark Victor Hansen for chiming in today. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys radio show.